Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. I am Reverend Cindy Grimes, and I am broadcasting this afternoon from the Center for Spiritual Living located in Ocala, Florida. And I'm so excited that you've decided to join us this afternoon, that you're watching, taking some of the time from your Sunday, your precious minutes, and hanging out with us today. We've got a great broadcast. We've got a special guest today, and I'm just really excited. We have been talking about the concept of revolutionary love as described by author Valerie Kaur in her book, See No Stranger. And we've been talking about a few different topics. We started talking about wonder, and last month for April, we spoke about grief as an act of revolutionary love. And today, we're going to start our conversation about fighting for others and what that looks like in the spiritual realm. Fighting is not usually something that we talk about at Centers for Spiritual Living. So I'm excited to kind of hash this out and to have this discussion with some other great spiritual leaders and visionaries. And you're going to meet some of those folks this week. So as we get started, I'll tell you a little about Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. These are the things that we value at the Center for Spiritual Living. These are our values at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala, although we are part of a much larger movement. We value spiritual growth and practice. It is the first thing on our list. It's the reason that we come together to learn and to grow. And we value love. It's where we come from. It's what we are made of. And it's very important to us in our community. We value appreciation, what we give thanks for and what we appreciates in our life. We get more of it. We value community, those connections that we have with one another, that support and encouragement. We value freedom of expression, freedom to be who we came here to be. We value the creative process, and we teach about that. We value health and wholeness in all of its aspects, whether we're talking about your financial health or your physical health or emotional health. We value generosity, and we have many wonderful, generous people that are part of our center. And we value financial well-being. And this is our mission at Centers for Spiritual Living. Again, it's reflective of the mission of the larger organization, and that is to provide spiritual tools and practices for personal and global transformation. Our purpose is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence, meaning that we believe that we all come into this world as perfect, whole, and complete. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And as we go through life, sometimes we forget that. And what we do at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala is to remind people of that truth and of the power that we all have within ourselves to create our experience. And so I'm excited to tell you about our guest today. One of our guests, we have a panel that will be having our discussion today on this idea of power, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But we've invited a special guest, and she is the spiritual director and the minister at the Center for Spiritual Living Central Florida, which is located in Orlando. And her name is Reverend Kathy Beasley. And Kathy, let me tell you a little bit about Kathy. Kathy, she is a leader. She is an author, a motivator, a teacher, a public theologian, an innovator, and just a beautiful woman. And we're finding ourselves serving on a lot of committees together. And it's just really exciting when you meet someone that you know right away is kind of a kindred spirit. And so we're very excited to have her here. And I'm just going to bring Kathy on into the stream. Hello, Reverend Kathy. You're muted.
I know, I was trying to get my stage voice right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. And so I'm going to just allow you to go ahead and open us up, bring in that space with an invocation and kind of set the stage for our conversation.
Thank you. It's my honor.
All right. Let me take
So,
my.
beloved, if you could just settle yourselves into this moment that we share and know that we come together in that consciousness that we are never separate from the realization and the recognition that there's only one thing that's ever happening. That one thing is love. It's love that we stand upon, love that propels us forward, love that catches us at any moment. And as we know that this power of love shows up in the forms of divine intelligence, it shows up in the form of laughter, tears, it shows up in the form of agency. And today, for this opportunity to come together, we're grateful, we're thankful in every way possible. And so, for all the words that are spoken and all the space between every word and every thought, we speak the words, we release the thoughts, acknowledging and accepting the divinity of the heart, the soul, the mind of these people. And for that coming together on this topic, may all thoughts be profound, may all words move with love, and may we leave this place changed for the good and forever. Amen. Ashe. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Are you hearing me? Are you there?
I'm here. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, yes. Thank you so much. I'm going to bring in our practitioners. They're regulars on our, in our broadcast, and that is Donna Davis and Norma Anderson. Oh, they're part of the backbone of CSL Ocala, and I'm just so grateful to have you all here.
Thank
So we
you.
got a big conversation ahead of us, and yeah, right. We've been talking about this idea of revolutionary love, and we started out with talking about the idea of wondering about others and about strangers and opening our hearts to them, and then opening in an even deeper way in grieving, right? And allowing ourselves to have our own grief and experience that, and then stepping in, opening ourselves to the grief of other people. And it takes a lot to do that.
It
Yeah,
does.
it
A
really
lot of
takes a lot
energy.
of strength to do that. And so we've been having this conversation. We're in the work. We teach what we want to learn, right? And
Absolutely.
yeah, this idea of radical, of revolutionary love is just what we need right now in this world. And so, as I said, we're using Valerie's work in See No Stranger, and the next topic of discussion is this idea of fighting for others. And I know we spiritual people, we're nice people. We don't like to fight, right? It doesn't. So I think even to say fighting as an act of revolutionary love is maybe I don't know what's the word? Ironic or paradoxical or something like that. Like it may not make sense to people.
It's not fighting. It's like being a nurse. It's advocating.
That's a great way to put it.
And you make it sound so good too. It's advocating.
You
I love the way that feels.
Yes, fighting makes it seem as if that something is wrong with you and wrong with it. No, it's an advocation. I am standing for this person who cannot stand.
Yeah.
When you paint that picture, Donna, that's so beautiful because there is not a winner and a loser as there typically are in the fights that we understand
Yes.
in a cultural realm, but that the one who fights and the one who's being fought for are all winners. So I love the feeling of that idea of advocation.
Yeah, because I'm calling you to a higher power and I'm calling you to a higher expression. So when I'm doing that, I'm not fighting you. I'm calling to your potential. And if I'm standing as an advocate for a patient, I'm calling to that potential that's now going to be saying, yes, we really need to put that vulnerable person first. And now we're both symbiotically working to take care of this person. So now it becomes an advocating, not a fighting.
Yeah.
Just because we're different for you, and that's why she's talking about that wonder, right? Just because
Mm-hmm.
we're different and we're on seemingly opposing sides does not necessarily mean that we can't come to the middle for the greater good.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna move into that realm of revolutionary love for our opponents in the next section.
Mm-hmm.
Today we're going to talk about this idea and how Valerie describes fighting. She says to fight is to tap into your own sense of agency to protect yourself and others, which I'm sure is something that we've all experienced.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the point where I wanted to start, that idea of having your own agency, which is another way of saying owning your power.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Owning your power. So we have to be able to own our own power so that we can really show up, for ourselves and for others. So I thought that's where we would start the conversation, is maybe just throw it out there. Um, when has there been a time in your life when you didn't feel a sense of your own agency, right? Of your own power, and what changed that for you? If anybody would care to jump in with on that conversation.
I'll take it.
Go for it, Ken.
Um, yeah, the time that I did not have an awareness of my sense of agency, I have to say it's when I was a kid, because I was smaller than everybody else, slower than everybody else, and when you're different as a child, I don't know what it is in the water and in the air, but other kids pick on you, and so I didn't feel like I had my own sense of power. Um, I had to rely on power, the power of proximity. How close was I to the teacher? How close was I to another responsible adult so they could make this go away? And
Mm,
in as I got older and I started to understand that need to pick on, that need to be right, that need to demean other people, that there was something underneath that for those folk. Not just that they were mean spirited or taller than me. It was just that there was something else going on that I may never know. And so I think for me it was really as a kid, and I dragged with me in my little red wagon of stuff I pulled through my life, um, is the memory of what that felt like, such that I can, as Donna so beautifully stated, that I can advocate for people who may be in that space of
mm,
feeling that they're less than, smaller than, and that power of proximity. If I'm close enough, then there is something absolutely that I could do.
wow. Yes, yes, yes. Yes. I can speak for myself in the same, that it's those experiences that you have, in your youth or whatever, that kind of open up your heart to have compassion for others, and you understand what people are going through because you've been through your own changes,
Mhm.
right? And it helps you step up. Yeah. Anybody else? Donna, Norma, you want to talk about? I know you ladies are incredible warriors, and that comes from going through a whole lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Well, for me, it was, I remember distinctly when I was 12 years old, and it was when my mom passed. And my family was deciding, because I was the only child that was still a minor. And my family was deciding where I was to live. And I think there was some tug of war because half of my family was Jehovah's Witness and the other half was not. And I just kind of felt powerless as to what my future was to become or who I was to live with. And no matter where I went, there was resentment on the other side. And I went, of course. I ended up living with my cousins, who, the Jehovah's Witness side won. They're quite forceful in putting forth what they think is right. So that's where I ended up. And it was some up and down stuff always in my family because of that decision that had to be made. And I think that period in my life is what kind of pushed forward with, as everybody, a lot of people know, Don and I have taken in a lot of children who may or may not have had other places to live, but they were able to make a choice of their own, where they wanted to go. And if they wanted to come be with us, of course, we would, discuss with their parents. We didn't steal anybody's child, of course, but, our doors were always open for those who needed a place. And, that kind of gave them a sense of power over their lives, I think.
Mm. Beautiful.
I remember that moment, when I had to ask myself that question, at which point did I flip it back to me? So for me, when I didn't have control is the 3 different instances where I was raped, 3 different times. And the third time I thought something's wrong with me. It's me. It's got to be me. Why does this thing keep happening? It's my fault, And so I took on that victimhood. And then for years, I decided, you know what? I need to take this back. And so I did a lot of different things, tapped into different modalities to be able to take back my femininity and be okay with how I showed up in the world. And I discovered that it was the light. I just had to turn on the light, like 100-watt bulb of my sexuality, femininity, and it deterred predators. And that's what I found worked for me. But then I started realizing that's when we started coaching others. And, at first we were like, I'll coach women who have had this thing, taken, and how they can slowly make their way back. And then I realized and discovered it resided in everyone, including our men. Their divine femininity was shoved down or ripped apart or, made to feel wrong. And now we're coming back. And as I started to look at the God in everyone, and that's why this teaching was just the best thing that could have happened to me, because I started looking at the God expression in everybody, including those who were unsavory or who I deemed unsavory. And so I said, okay, keep the physical body safe. How can I do the work that I need to do? How can I help to tap into that piece of you that is just so hidden that you feel called to hurt someone else? And that's dangerous for somebody who thought they were a victim, but now stepping into that. And that's why, I feel that more and more people have to tap into their divine masculine or their divine feminine and be okay with it, and get balance within themselves and then teach it to other people. And then goodness, teach that to our children coming up so that they, that's the only way we're going to combat this thing. Or you're going to have people who are out of control.
Yeah. So I want to, talk a little bit about that idea of power and what is it, We talk about this a lot, right, in Science of Mind. And, when I do workshops outside with other people, I start with the question, is power good or is power bad? And it's usually a 50-50 split. You get people in a room, one side of the room says strongly agree, the other side of the room says strongly disagree, and you'll have people split on opposite sides, right? And it's because we're not really defining what we mean by power, right? Because there's different aspects of power. That was what I went with the title, power, the good, the bad, and the ugly, like it's all of it. And so I just want to pop this definition up here of now power in and of itself is neither good nor bad, right? It's just is. It is so, and it is what's necessary, right? You get in your car, you don't have gasoline in it, you don't have the power to run your vehicle, you're not going anywhere. Right? So we all need our personal power, our agency to get ourselves out of bed and do what it is that we came to do here in this world. But then there's there's different types of power. And so I wanted to just go over this. When people say power is bad, they're generally looking at that first definition, which is power over. And that is the use of power to privilege certain groups of people while marginalizing others. So that's the kind of power we want to get away from. Then we have power with, which is the use of power through mutual support, through solidarity, through collaboration and respect that multiplies our talents, our knowledge, our resources, right? That's power with other people. Then there's power to, and this is where we focus in our teaching, is that potential for every person to shape his or her life and our power within that capacity to imagine and have hope, right? So this is where we tend to focus, right? Our attention in Centers for Spiritual Living is our personal power, our personal capacity. And Oprah said it like this: after meeting with thousands of people, the greatest transformation comes from this one thing, right? And that is owning your own power.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like you all, I have, my story of feeling powerless, being in the victim mode, started also in childhood, right? I mean, kids are essentially powerless. They're relying on the adults and their family and, the grown-ups for everything. And I can remember when I was a kid being really, really strong-willed, and I grew up in a time where it wasn't cool for a little girl to be as strong-willed as I was. And so, it got kind of smushed down, in ways that were really difficult for me. I mean, it was like there was one person that could get angry in our house, and I assure you it was not me. Right? And then there was the flip side. If there were tears, it was like, oh, you want something to cry about? I'm gonna give you something to cry about.
Yep.
Right. So you learn to like zip it, right? I'm not, and it really, oh my gosh, I spent years and years and years getting over that. I think I still have some of the residual even, right? Of
Yeah.
Just feeling safe enough to step into who I really am. And this teaching is what did that for me. Right? It's a hard lesson when you first hear it, right? That your
Yeah.
life, that what your life is what you have created. Either by default because you didn't know any better,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, that's what it is. And sometimes when we know better, we do better,
Yes.
and then you have better outcomes. So yeah, it was kind of a bitter pill to swallow. And I just read an article the other day about people being addicted to suffering and drama,
Mm-hmm.
and when that's what you're used to, you recreate it.
Absolutely. It's something about making that choice. Um, I think that there was a point in my life where I was addicted to suffering. And I didn't know it. I didn't know a better way. I thought that was the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know I was suffering until I stopped suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's one of those things. While you're in it, I don't think you have as clear of a perspective of what the it is until you're drawn out from it and into a space of safety. Because you said something a minute ago about the idea of being able to safely act on your own personal power. And there's something about that idea of safety and perspective. Because when I talk about power, I try to figure out where people are in relation to it. Do you think you're beneath it, which means that everything is power over you? Or do you think that you're within it, which means you're a participant in the flow of power? Or are you above it, which means that you're kind of like above the law of power?
Mm-hmm.
And so to understand where people are on that spectrum, and when I consider that idea of safety and recouping that power, it was always there. It's like that Wizard of Oz moment where Dorothy could always go home.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what went through her head. Like, seriously, bro, we could have skipped the flying monkeys, really. And so I try to remind myself of that sometimes. And I did not know until somebody I work with told me that there are moments where I will click my heels.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, that's like my little safety mechanism, that I have the power to make whatever this unpleasantness is stop, as opposed to feeling like I have to endure it. And then now I tell the victim story. So I invite you all to click your heels and wear some red fancy shoes too.
That's right.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in it. I'm so in it right now. That
Mhm.
because Kathy, this is the other committee that we're on. We're writing talks for 2022. Right? Everyday wonder.
Exactly. Who
Wonder,
knew what we were getting into?
right? And so my everyday wonder is everyday wonder at home.
Hmm.
And that is the story that I keep coming back to, is the story of the hero, right? And
Mhm.
Dorothy, and there's no place like home. There's no place like home. And here it is, right in here.
Yeah,
That's
and I have the everyday wonder at work, and I tap into that advocate of the work you do with your hands, your heart, your head, and how it all comes together. And I keep coming back to I do this work not for myself. I do it for other people so that they can find a way and see a light that maybe I didn't see, or I saw it and I was just like, maybe that's a train. We don't know. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen.
Kathy, did you always know, or did you have a sense that that there was a bigger picture for you, even when you were being bullied?
Yeah, that was the problem. is is that I knew because I could see it, but I didn't have language for it.
mm,
And that in and of itself can be daunting. Because have you ever been talking and you forget a word
oh
and
yeah.
you know the word and you're like, that's how I was through much of my life. I could see it, I could sense it, I could feel it. Not to mention, I had my grandmother on the bench coaching me. You know, you have to stand up straight. You have to use your words. Pronounce, don't run five words together because I'm from Louisiana, and five words can be one word. Yeah, and she was like, no, use your words properly because you may have to speak to thousands of people. And I was like, okay, now, but not really understanding what that was until I stepped into it. And then now I can recall all the things and the lessons that I heard and not be afraid of it. Cause you know, once you're in it, you just check that fear right at the door. And I only had two hands, so I had to bring the most important things, which was my desire to help other people and my desire to be a whole person in that. So I didn't have any pockets in my garments, so I couldn't bring fear along. I had to leave that outside in the car, and just come on in and do what's in me to be done. I'm taking one of the CSL classes, the writings of Ernest Holmes, and Dr. Sanders, the professor, and one of the things he talks about is being what you already are.
Mm.
And so I had to figure out how to be what I already am.
Yeah, love it. What was the, like, for you ladies, Norma and Donna, your turning points? Like, was there that moment, let me preface this. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day. We were talking about this upcoming series here, and she said, you have to, like, own your own power and be able to fight for yourself before you can fight for other people.
Mhm.
And I didn't feel like that was accurate for me, because I felt like I came out because I wanted to protect other people even more than myself, if that makes sense. Right? Like, you might pick on me, but you're not going to pick on that kid, that kid there, or you're
Right.
not going to put
Right.
my child down, or that, because that's when the mama bear comes out,
Yep.
right? Like, you do something to me, but you're not going to do something to my family, to my kids. That's the fight instinct right there.
hmm Yeah.
So, I mean, was there, when did it turn for you, Donna, Norma? Like, that moment, like, I need to step up here.
Mhm. It turned for me when I got a daughter. That's when it turned, because I knew that my daughter was going to be perfect and okay, and ain't nobody going to do nothing, and she was not going to turn off this part of herself. And so we're going to talk about it, and we're going to be open about it, and I'm going to share my experiences so that she would be ready and be able to see and be able to feel her own feminine power. And unfortunately, in doing so, I called the very thing to me.
Mm, mm-hmm.
So and that's before I even knew of the teaching or anything like that. And so in my anger, it's what it was. There was this anger that came out of my victimhood that said, hey, enough.
Mm,
And once that happened, I said, okay, that's it. And I almost had to turn myself into like this Marvel superhero person, because it couldn't be me, because me was the victim, right? I had to become this other that was so powerful. And that's when I stepped into that space and was like, oh, I can wield this very thing that is my femininity. And you can't touch me. And then bam, once I figured that out, I stepped a little closer to who I was. And then I became a mom and I stepped into that advocacy role. And then I became a nurse and stuff. And it was just little steps, to get more and more powerful. But I remember that moment that said, enough, you won't harm myself or my child. And it was that. I got a daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it was actually more tied to the teaching, because my entire family, everybody, is I would classify as a group of conformists. Go along with the flow. Don't cause trouble. Don't be seen. Don't be heard. And when I found CSL, and of course, it's all about self-empowerment and knowing who you are and expressing who you are. Well, first it starts with finding out who you are. And as I explored myself, and I realized that, no, I don't have to do this just because you want me to, or no, I don't have to go there just because you say it's what I should do. And, I developed this phrase, and people laugh at me because they say I have normisms, but I came up with I'm not finna do that.
Are you from Louisiana?
So
that's worthy of a t-shirt right there. I'm not finna do that.
I'm not finna do that. And, I say it and people kind of laugh, but they know I'm serious. If it's not mine to do, and that's the key, is learning what was mine to do. And it keeps you from becoming a doormat for people. It keeps you from enabling others that need to do things for themselves. And, it kind of sets parameters for life. Once you know what's yours to do, you can grow from that aspect instead of what others are telling you should be doing.
Man, I do the check-in with myself, that little check-in that says, how much of my energy is going to go to this? Do I have any of that energy? No. I'm on steam? Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Because, it was that. I had to, or else I would give. And then it's like, I would fall over, and when I had the energy to do that, I was like, yeah. And then I had my practitioner session when I was in prac class. And my practitioner said, so how much of your energy needs to be expelled in order for you to feel like you're a martyr? And I was, what? No. What? I'm not a martyr. I'm not trying to martyr myself. And she's like, well, can you find a different way? I'm like, no, I can't find a different way. She said, well, then it's not yours to do. It's for spirit to make a way. Then you ask yourself, how much of this is mine to do? And if the answer is this much, then that much is what you tell those people that you love and care about so much. This much is mine to do. And the rest of it's going to have to be spirit, because I don't have the energy to do it. And there's no shame in saying that you don't have the energy. I'm not as young as I used to be. And, high energy brings me anxiety now, where it never used to, But again, I've been giving so much of myself that I have to honor that too. And the people who love me love so much about me that they're like, oh my God, of course. What can I do to help support you? And then bam, you have this give and take now. That's so beautiful. And it's not, oh, I'm martyring myself because I love you. Well, it doesn't become this thing that you're just giving.
Yeah.
And those who don't have anything to give back, that equal exchange of energy, then you just know that you're giving that energy up and don't expect it in return.
Well, you're modeling self-care,
right? Yeah.
And that's important for everybody. I know, I'm going to say women in particular, women in my, let me say the women in my circles, my family, and that I've seen, it's always taking care of everybody else, right? So you feed the kids first, you take care of the husband, the house, the work, the everything else. And if there's anything left after, I'll take care of myself.
Right.
And it's a paradigm that, that I grew up with. So Norma has been an excellent teacher for me, and I'm not fitting to do that. I'm just well, practice that. Right.
Yeah, I just, I use it in order of, importance. So for me, importance is the person who's vulnerable and cannot for themselves. I put them first. And then I put animals next because, we domesticated them. So now they're vulnerable. So we take care of them. And then everything after that, if you can care for yourself, you're going to help me because I might be before you because I might be in low vibration. So you got to help me, So once you realize that that's how it works for you, and I mean that's my system, and sometimes I have to be like, there's a vulnerable person here, and I can't even hold them up. That's when I look for you phone a friend, help, But that's when you just know this is how much I can handle, and do it that way.
Yes,
For me, it
indeed.
was a great lesson for that. And I had a lot of guilt surrounding, where my power was with taking care of my mother. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, I have to take me now into consideration because it pulled on my energy so much to be a nurse there at the hospital and then come home and be a nurse to her. And I started resenting being her nurse. And I was like, wow, Donna, you're kinder to people in the hospital than you are to your mom. Not good. Because I would snap at her one day and I was like, whoa, and I had to check myself. And thank goodness I have the face of God right next to me here. Well,
Yeah.
because she would be like, oh, babe, you were harsh, And I'd be like, yeah, I need to. And I'd go back and ask her forgiveness, because that's important. She was such a sweet, gentle soul, you know.
Mhm.
And so I learned so much in that relationship with her about myself and how much I could handle. And now I'm taking on my sister and brother, and I'm like, okay, how much of that are you willing to handle? You know, and not have the guilt surrounding it, you know, and being able to say that I have this much to give, and then reach out when you see that your cup is being depleted. Reach out, you know. There are people out there who that's all they do is help replenish your cup, like massage therapists, replenish your cup.
Yeah.
I like that idea. Next time I need a massage, I'm just how I'm gonna phrase it. My cup is empty.
Hmm.
And the thing I've learned about that is you can't pour anything from an empty cup.
No.
Mhm.
And there are points, especially in ministry, where it seems like we're in the business of giving, that there isn't anything left. And one of the things I try to do is express to my community is, hey, human being here, and I get sleepy, I get tired, I get hangry, and so basically, watch out. And I think they're familiar with their statement that they're familiar with me here, Norma. I'm gonna add, I'm not finna do that. But usually, if I start out a sentence with "nuh-uh,"
Oh my
uh,
goodness.
but yeah, here's a question for you all. How many of you use the word power um, in this dynamic when you were kids, or was power the electricity?
Oh.
Power was always the electricity.
It was the I didn't know it was something people had.
Uh-uh.
And I sure didn't know it was something that I had.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's
that was
for
an
sure.
adult key.
That's for sure. That's an awakening in itself, isn't it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, wait, I have my own, wait a minute, this is up to me?
Mm-hmm.
Like I look at, I have a family member, we're the same age, and he's had 5 different wives, and the same issues seem to come up with each one. And there's always that, like, wow, it happened to me again. No, dude, it didn't happen to you. What's the common denominator here? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what I had to own up to myself, in feeling like a victim. And why do people step on me? And why does this keep happening over and over again? Well, who's the common denominator?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Part of owning my power was required that I own up to those things and what I created,
Hmm.
and cleaning it up,
Hmm. Turning up the wattage,
essential.
you know, turning up the wattage and saying, okay, this is me, and it's all right, and it's okay, and I'm gonna smile, you know. And sometimes it's a matter of like, I was just reading some of the comments, and Mary Lou said power was getting bullied into the ground. You know, sometimes your physical form is in danger, and you can't step into that personal power because you got somebody with a gun to your head, you know, or something that's like, yeah, you know, here we are. So that is when you're like, okay, what do I need to do to keep my physical body safe? Just because I want to jump up at the bank robber and say, yes, I have the power to stop you. No, the power might be keep your head down and wait for them to get whatever money they want in whatever situation they got going on until they exit, call 911. You know, that could, it's knowing the common sense of saying, what do I do now? So, you know, for me, the power was taking the power away from me was rape, you know, and there might be people that are listening to this saying, yes, power, it's out of my power. I have no power. There I am, you know, and that's when you're in that mindset of, okay, you know, I think it was Viktor Frankl that said between, right? You use that.
Or between stimulus and response, there is that space.
There's that space.
That void.
I just invite people to breathe in that space. You know, sometimes you're in a powerless space, especially if it's a physical thing, powerless, you know, and here you are. Breathe in that space. You know, let go of the rain. Breathe in that space. Because there's something else that you can do, but you know what you have power over? The next breath.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted people to take away. And that's the lesson I had to learn, you know, in that moment. And it's the same thing for kids. You're in that moment. Breathe into that space. Because sometimes all the power is taken, especially if it's a physical thing, you know.
Yeah. Well, ladies, this is a deep conversation, and looking at the time, we need to be wrapping it up. But we're going to continue this conversation over the rest of the month, hitting this idea of personal power from a couple of different angles, what that looks like, and how we can step up and fight for others using our skills, our talents, our abilities, doing what is ours to do, right? And coming from that safe/brave space.
And we're going to be talking about that next week.
As we model for other. Yeah, next week is Mother's Day, so about that fierce mama energy.
Yeah, so we can talk about some of these because, you know, I'm watching some of the comments and, you know, we can really tackle some of the powerlessness, man.
Yes, yeah, we're getting lots of comments here. Let's see about not shitting on people, right? When we take that, you know, he, she, or they shouldn't do this, you know, and turning it around to what could I do? Right? That's a way of owning your power when you find yourself shitting on somebody else. To take it back and say, what is mine to do? So I guess we'll close out maybe with just go around one round. What do you want to share with people about if they're in a place of powerlessness, feeling victimized maybe? Is there something they can do, and concise as we can, to help bring themselves into an understanding of their own power?
I think to close up for me, when you find yourself in those spaces, is remember the power of I. I am strong. I am enough. I've got this. I'm moving forward. So use the power of your I statements for your good would be my leaving point for you.
For me, I'd like to encourage everyone to, you know how to say practice makes perfect? But if you figure out now who you are, what you'll accept, what you stand for, when you get in those critical situations, you'll already kind of know right off, you know, this is how I respond. This is what I do. Instead of being in a frenzy and trying to figure things out at the last minute.
And for me, one of the things that I do instead of disassociating anymore, because I used to, Mary Lou mentioned that, just to kind of check out of my body. What I do now is I check in completely into the power and presence of the oneness is what I do. I connect to that, knowing that I'm a part of the oneness. And that if in this moment something was to happen to this physical form, I am continuing on anyway because I'm a part of the oneness. And there's nothing but oneness and love around me because God's everywhere. And I step into that knowing. And the minute I step into that knowing, then I feel, for me, that the God expression that I am, I turn up the wattage. I go into my light space and turn up the wattage. And then I invite others to be in that light. And if they are not in that light, I found, for me, it works that they can't look at it and they walk away and I'm alone. And that's what worked for me. And I smile the brightest I can smile. I just beam that love. I just step into that God space. And for me, it works. And that's how I felt safe because I bring light with me.
Love it. Love it.
Mhm.
I would add, I think actually Norma already said this, is the aspect of mindfulness, and not letting myself spin out too much into the future or, worries about this, that, and the other is going on. But the fact is that right now I'm sitting here, I have everything I need, right? There's a roof over my head, all is well, and just be present. Because right now I have everything I need, all is well.
Okay.
And then that's that question too for those of us who have anxiety, because sometimes I'll be sitting in one chair and going through this, oh my God, the whole world's coming to an end thing. I breathe into that space and do that mindfulness and then remember it's all light. And then the anxiety dissipates too.
Yes. I love it. Thank you, ladies, for hanging out this
Thank you.
afternoon.
My
We're going to
pleasure.
be gathering after this for those who are available to do it on Zoom. And I believe Richard's going to put that link in the chat for everybody. I can actually put it up here. Kathy, it'd be great. There we go. CSL Ocala. If you can join us,
Yes, I
we
can.
invite folks from the congregation or whoever is watching to come and share their prayer requests. Dig a little bit deeper if people want to talk about this idea of owning your personal power, how that relates to, to fighting for others. And so I invite you to join us.
Fantastic.
It'd be awesome. Thank you so much for today. That was a rich
Yeah.
conversation. I look forward to continuing it.
It was wonderful meeting you, Reverend Kathy.
It's my pleasure. I'm gonna hang out with y'all for a while.
Oh yeah, I think she needs to. I told you, right? You feel that,
Yeah. Yeah,
somebody
I
and
was warned.
we're already family.
Yep.
Thank you, ladies. See you on Zoom in a bit.
Okay.
All righty.
All
Bye, y'all.
right. Bye. How fun. Well, it is time now for us to share our gifts and our tithes. What a great conversation. I hope more of you will join us in the Zoom call afterward because we can take it a couple of levels deeper. You might hear some stories you might not have heard on the recording. So let's sharing our gifts. So this is our affirmation, and I invite you to read it, to listen to it, to make it your own. But whatever it is that you're needing or would like to have more of in your life, you know that what you need to do is plant the seed. So if money is an issue, you need to give money. If friendship is an issue, you need to be a friend. If you're not feeling enough love in your life, well, maybe you need to give some to plant that seed so that is what will grow in your experience. So we are Center for Spiritual Living, and just like any other organization, we've got bills to pay, electric bills and insurance and all those good things. And so I just invite you to, if these messages ring true for you, if you get anything out of it, to consider sending a gift to the Center for Spiritual Living. We have lots of ways, a couple of ways anyway, for you to do that. You can do text to tithe, what we call text to tithe. So you take your phone and send a text message to that number, 352-320-5110. And you just put in the amount of money that you'd like to send the Center for Spiritual Living, and it will go from your account to ours. Or you can donate at cslocala.org/donate via PayPal. So that is another way to help us out. And I know we've got oh gosh, a yard day coming up, like help out at the center. I believe that is going to be in 2 weeks, May 15th on a Saturday. So if you can come out and help, if you're local, we would appreciate you. And I think that's it. So let's see. I'll do our affirmation. It is the nature of life to give of itself. As it is the tree's nature to bear fruit and the flower's nature to bloom, it is my nature to share the gifts of my time, talent, and treasure. I participate in the divine flow of life, giving generously and receiving abundantly. I am blessed and I am a blessing. I am so very grateful. Yes, I'm a blessing and you're a blessing. And let me see if there's any other questions here or thoughts before we sign off and go on to Zoom. Check the comments. All right. Looks like we've got everything. Thanks for a great conversation, Susan. Mary Lou, hope to see you on Zoom. And Mary Ellen and all of you folks who are with us this afternoon. Thank you for spending your Sunday afternoon with us. And so we'll close out with a prayer here. This is the prayer for protection, and it comes from our brothers and sisters in unity, and it is written by James Dillett Freeman, and it is: the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. I want you to really think about that phrase there: wherever you are, God is there as well, because spirit runs in, around, and through you, right? You are the place where God lives. And so I just affirm that as you go into your experience this next week, that any obstacles turn into stepping stones to your greater yet to be. And I hope you all have a fabulous week. Thanks for joining us, and hope to see you on Zoom. Take care.